at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. It is Wednesday, August 14th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, and welcome to the Trump recession. Donald Trump has destroyed a great economy, and we've been warning you. I've been warning you. When I had Rick Unger on, I had David K. Johnston on. We warned you the economy was contracting. I'm not saying we're heading into depression, but it is slowing, and the stock market is always forward-looking. And what it's telling us today, with a 3% drop over 800 points, is that the economy is slowing. I don't want that to happen. I don't like that to happen. I want us to beat Trump without that, but that's where we're going. And in 447 days, the most important election of our lives, Judgment Day, I don't know where the economy will be, but if it begins to slow, like it's all in likelihood it would, this could be a huge victory for the Democrats. Think about the last recession was during a Republican, George W. Bush. The record economic growth we had was under President Obama, right through now. If we have another recession and it's because of Trump's policies, especially the tariffs, I mean, that's what he has done. He slowed down the economy. We just talked about it 2 nights ago with Rick Unger and David K. Johnston last week. Goldman Sachs warned that the tariffs were causing a contraction of our economy. And look what we're having now. So first, we need some humor. Talk about some heavier things. First, here's last night, Colbert talking about Donald Trump visiting a plant, which he did yesterday in Pennsylvania, and what that plant actually does. Here's clip number 1.
Trump was there to chopper out to western Pennsylvania, where he visited a brand new cracker plant named for the chemical reaction of cracking gas molecules into the building blocks of plastic, although I'm not sure Trump knows that's what it means.
Crackers, huh? Are we talking about the kind you put in the soup or the kind that shows up to my rallies? Which one? Just give me an idea of which.
Trump's rally should be renamed the Cracker Barrel. That's what it should be, just like the restaurant change in the South. And then here is Colbert on Trump meandering and saying, I can't, it's unreal if you watch a lot of clips from his event yesterday. He meandered for an hour. It wasn't a rally. It wasn't a corporate event at a corporation. But here he is meandering. Clip number 2.
Though Trump said he loved natural gas, he went all Don Quixote on the windmills.
Big windmills that destroy everybody's property values, kill all the birds, and then all of a sudden it stops. The wind and the televisions go off. And your wives and husbands say, darling, I want to watch Donald Trump on television tonight. But the wind stopped blowing and I can't watch. There's no electricity in the house, darling.
Oh yes. Wow. Oh yes, darling husband, the wind isn't blowing, so you can't watch Trump on TV. Isn't it all that I pulled the circuit breaker so I wouldn't have to hear the syphilitic ramblings of the madman? Damn you, windmills! Damn you!
Syphilitic ramblings of a madman is what he said about Trump. What a great line. And by the way, windmills, it's renewable energy. This is just part of the war on renewable energy to help fossil fuel companies and coal companies. So when he attacks windmills like that, that's what he's doing it for. And speaking of the ranting of a madman, here's just a quick joke after that. And this is completely true. What Colbert is going to say is the actual time of when this rally was is absolutely true. He's not making it up for a joke. Just listen to Trump and his unhinged, untethered comment. Here's clip number 3.
Trump was very impressed with the turnout at the event.
That's a lot of people back there for like 11 o'clock speech.
It is a big crowd for an 11 o'clock speech, especially considering it was 2:40 p.m.
It really was 2:40 p.m. He called it 11 in the morning. There's something not right about him. And I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I don't really care. I worry about our country, not about Trump's mental health, but there's something fundamentally wrong with the guy. And here's something not as fun, and I'm just talking about it because something's happening tomorrow in New York, and I feel compelled to talk about it. And when we defeat Donald Trump, we will have not defeated Trumpism. Now, if we do a shellacking of the Republicans and we take the Senate back and add to our House majority and win the White House big, that'll be one of the biggest ways we can push back on Trumpism. But what is sad now, and I'm seeing it here in New York and in other parts of the country, there are younger people, especially younger white people, who are now infected with Trumpism. Trumpism is metastasizing and has spread to younger people. And when I say Trumpism, to me, that it's simply a celebration of white supremacy, a celebration of bigotry, and a celebration of sexism, plus cruelty thrown in there. And it's not going to end when Trump leaves easily. It's going to be a lot of work. And I'll give you an example why. There's no more of a glaring example than what's going on here in New York City, where I live in a blue city, in a blue state, the New York Young Republican Club. It is the oldest young Republican club in the United States. It literally traces its roots back to 1856. Give you a contrast, during the 2016 primary, New York Times wrote an article interviewing young Republicans here in New York who are members of the club. And a lot of them were very outspoken about not liking Donald Trump. He was not the nominee then, but they didn't like him. They said things like, because of Trump, you have people saying that's what the Republican Party is. This young person added, it's not. Another member said they are very worried that Trump will become the face of the GOP if he's the nominee. And one young female member of the Young Republicans, this is 2016, said if Trump is a nominee, she would likely vote for Hillary Clinton. That's where the party was in 2016. You had young people breaking hard against Donald Trump. Flash forward 2019, what is going on? The New York Young Republicans is 150% on the Trump train. And what I mean by that, they are inviting as speakers to their organization people who have spewed white nationalist talking points, anti-Muslim hate, misogyny, far-right conspiracy theories, and even just 2 weeks ago, and this got no media coverage, but I just wrote about it for the Daily Beast, so hopefully it goes up tomorrow, Friday, on their website, on their official Facebook page, and on their Instagram account, they have one of the leaders of the Young Republicans there standing next to another young white guy giving the white power hand gesture. Just openly doing that, like it's nothing now. That's what this party's become. That's what the Republicans in New York City, the most storied, legendary young Republican, might not know her. And you're lucky you don't know who she is. Some of you might know the name. It might ring a bell. I know her very well because I've written about her and fought against her for years. She is, as the Southern Poverty Law Center said, one of the most flamboyant The ADL has said she is consistently vilifying the Islamic faith under the guise of fighting radical Islam. And about immigrants, Muslim immigrants, she has claimed they are invaders trying to destroy our nation. And if invaders sounds like words you'd see in a manifesto, clearly you're right because of El Paso, but even before that, a man named Anders Breivik, a right-wing terrorist in Norway in 2011, killed 77 people because in his view, he wanted to protect Europe from invaders who were Muslims and immigrants coming to Europe. And in his manifesto, he cited Pamela Geller by name, as well as Robert Spencer, her partner in crime, and a couple of other of her collaborators over 250 times in his manifesto. That's who they're inviting tomorrow. In fact, it gets worse. Pamela Geller has called Jewish groups and Jewish Americans who've denounced her hate, and many have. She has said they are worse than Judenrats. Judenrats was a term used for Jews working with the Nazis during World War II, like in the ghettos that helped them their oppression of the occupied Jewish community there, and even help people sending them to the gas chamber by organizing. She's actually called Jews worse than Judenrats. She's Jewish herself, but it doesn't matter. She's not any religion, really. She's not even human. But she's invited tomorrow to speak, and she's such a racist. She's such a bigot that Eventbrite, you may have heard of Eventbrite, that's an online ticketing platform. Last week, when they were alerted to who they were selling tickets to New York Young Republicans through Eventbrite, the platform delisted the event, saying that we determined that Pamela Geller engages in or promotes conduct that violates our community guidelines. So they said, this person is such a vile person. We're not going to let you sell tickets on our platform because we want nothing to do with her. And they even told the Young Republicans, if you try to list this again with her, we will ban you completely, the Young Republicans, from using Eventbrite. That didn't stop the New York Young Republicans for continuing to promote this event on their Twitter account, on their Facebook page, telling people, come over here. And if you look at their Twitter account, and what a contrast, 2016, there they were saying, we do not want to be defined by Donald Trump. Right now, their Twitter account, New York Young Republicans, is a salute to Trump. It's not a salute to the United States of America. It's not a salute to conservative values. It's a salute to the cult known as Trumpism. And just so it's clear, It's not like they're inviting Geller. It's a one-off, vile, despicable person, and they're going, we're going to have her speak to put sunlight because it's the greatest disinfectant. No. They've been inviting over and over, and it's getting no press, and I hope when my article comes out, other New York papers pick this up, a litany of some vile Trumpers. I'm talking about people who have spewed white nationalist talking points, misogynist, far-right conspiracy theories, and I'll give you examples. One guy, some of you might know him, maybe not, Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec, spelled Posobic. Trump retweets him every now and then, and it used to cause an uproar, but the media gave in. That's how he normalizes white supremacy. Jack Posobiec has tweeted coded language using the number 1488 in different ways in tweets. 14:88 at times and 1488 in the same tweet in different places. You might be going, what does 1488 mean? You're lucky. You don't have to learn this garbage because I've gotten more involved in the white supremacist world by writing about them. I've learned more about them. 1488 is code, white supremacist code, and I will explain to you what it means, and it's vile, but it's shorthand code for white supremacy. 14 are the 14 words in the white supremacist mantra. Those words are, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. That's the 14. What's the 88 in that number? 88 stands for, well, 8 is the letter H in our alphabet. By doing 88HH, that's code for Heil Hitler. That's the man, Jack Posobiec. He's used 1488. This is not an accident. In tweets, it's been documented. Trump has retweeted him. The young Republicans invited him to speak there. And it actually gets worse. This guy is one of the big spreaders of the Pizzagate bullshit. Remember Pizzagate, that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta were running a child sex ring out of a Washington, D.C. area pizza parlor? And when the first woman came forward about Roy Moore and said that when she was 14, Roy Moore sexually assaulted her, he doxed her by putting her personal information where she worked online. So people would go after her. It's all to defend Roy Moore. And this is another guy the New York Young Republicans invited. And it gets worse. They've also embraced more of the underbelly of the Trump world. And again, Jack Posobiec is part of the Trump world. Mike Cernovich, another guy who I used to fight with on Twitter before he became famous in the Trump world, who was a horrible scumbag. He was the primary advocate of Pizzagate, but it gets much worse than that. As the Southern Poverty Law Center has documented, Mike Cernovich, who is a big Trump lover, who was invited to speak to the New York Young Republicans in the last year, he has spewed white nationalist language, such as his claim that diversity in our country, is leading to an end of the white race. And here's one of his statements, quote, I went from libertarian to all right after realizing tolerance only went one way, and diversity is code for white genocide. We've all learned white genocide. It's something Trump retweeted during the campaign. White genocide, again, is code for white supremacy. And what that simply means is that they believe there's a genocide of white people going on when there's a brown invasion coming to this country. And they invited this guy, the New York Young Republicans. This guy also, Mike Cernovich, is also known as vilely misogynistic. He claims that date rape is an invented concept because rape requires a use of force, and date rape, you don't have that. This is who the New York Young Republicans, this is Trump. This is what Trumpism is, my friends. And you know what? It's not just the New York Young Republicans. Alarmingly, you may have heard of the Turning Point USA. It's a group that's well-funded by the right. Candace Owens is part of it. It is to recruit high school and college students to the right. And Trump just spoke at their big rally a couple of weeks ago. And in May, the head of the group's University of Nevada, Las Vegas chapter was caught on video doing the same white power gesture that I told you that they just posted on the New York Young Republicans website, Facebook page, and Instagram. And this guy in the video does the symbol and says white power. And then his friend next to him says, we're going to rule this country. White power. F the N-words. Of course, he said them out. Now, Turning Point did cut their ties with this guy, but it's not like he's the only one involved in Turning Point. Another young, angry white guy, another young, angry white woman as well. They're Turning Point's national field director. Last year was found out she had sent a text, said, I hate black people, like F them, I hate blacks, end of story. She was the national director of Turning Point USA. This is a young college and high school group who tries to attract high school and college students to be part of the Trump world. This is what we're seeing. It is going on in front of us. Trump just went and spoke a few weeks ago. And the media's, there's so much to cover with Trump. in their defense. I get it. But this is important stuff because you have the mainstreaming and normalizing of white supremacy right before our eyes. You know, there are polls that show that millennials have the lowest support level for Donald Trump. That is great. Only the latest poll, Gallup poll, only 27% of millennials support Trump. That's great, meaning 75% don't. Here's the problem. There are 80 million millennials. 27% still means there are millions of young people, primarily almost exclusively white, who love Trump. Millions, not 100,000, literally millions that live in our country who love Trump, who subscribe to this philosophy, white supremacy, of bigotry, anti-Muslim, anti-LGBT, anti-Hispanic, horribly sexist. Trump has unleashed this. This is a generation that when we defeat Trump in November 2020, unless he's getting removed through impeachment before that, which would be a tall order, but we're going to defeat him November 2020. This Trumpism has to be the next number one priority. And it's going to take it's going to take years. There's a young think about it. You know, I think about my young nieces. My sister's got 3 young girls. And they grew up, and now they're like 16 and 12-ish or around 8. They grew up primarily in the Obama era. They grew up with seeing a president who was multiracial, who was multicultural, who embraced the diversity, celebrated it, and made you all feel part of America. Donald Trump is the mirror opposite. He's a man who only wants white people to feel comfortable. That's all he wants. And tomorrow maybe I'll go through his appointments. It's off the charts that it really is a whites-only organization, the Trump regime. So how do we counter this? How do we defeat Trumpism? And I've asked this before because the more I see about it, the more I see it is trickling down to younger people. It is metastasizing. What do we do? How do we defeat Trumpism? And I think the number one thing, obviously, the most obvious, defeat Trump, November 3rd, 2020, and defeat him big. And go out there and vote and bring your family like your nation and your values depend on it, because they do. They're literally trying to rewrite the Statue of Liberty poem. Literally. Talking about changing the words on the Statue of Liberty and not literally going up there and changing them, but changing the idea to make it white only. We know that. There's no games. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not trying to be provocative when saying Donald Trump's policies come from the same place, a place of white supremacy, about keeping white people in power. That's what they're about. He celebrates and elevates white people. He marginalizes and often demonizes people of color. That is who Donald Trump is. These young people subscribe to this, and this is what so scares me, because if it's just older people, I'm like, well, look, what can you do? They're older, things haven't worked out in their lives, and I understand they're bitter, and they're going to look for someone to blame. When you're 21, 22, you live in New York City, and you're subscribing to the same philosophy, that should be a wake-up call. That is scary. These people have got every opportunity. They live in New York City. So that's where we are. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? You're my guest right at the top of the hour. Then we've got Daniel Moody Mills will be with us in the second hour. And then my friend Rula Jibril, talk about foreign policy. She's an expert on journalism, talk about the Middle East as well. I'd love to hear from you, though. 866-997-4748. Are you concerned about young people being infected by Trumpism? What do we do to defeat this? How do we take that next step that needs to do? We need to take our... It's not even taking our nation back. I don't want to use the cliches of the right, about protecting our nation from where we're heading. If you have young people, millions of young people subscribe to Trump, not healthy. All right, let's take a break. I want to hear from you. Be right back. At this point, the question is not who connected to Donald Trump is a criminal. The question is anyone connected to Donald Trump who's not a criminal?